Foreign aid is considered to be a tool for accelerating development in poor developing countries. It helps to improve health, economic situation, and inequality. It also contributes to solving poverty and famines and creation of peace and security. Large part of past family planning programs in Asia and Africa were funded by foreign donors. The Overpopulation Project asked Carl Wahren about his experience in foreign aid. Carl is an expert who headed the Aid Management Division at the OECD for a decade between 1987 and 1997. He evaluated the usefulness and effectiveness of foreign assistance in developing countries and has very surprising facts to share.
First of all, aid in general is a very, very doubtful thing. And again, I think one has to start at the individual level. You get money from a rich uncle, and it can be extremely helpful in a tough situation. It can also substitute for your own initiative and responsibility. It can lead you into a not very positive individual behavior. If all of a sudden you get money too easy. If the money was given to you because you have a child, and nobody controls whether you use it for the child or whether you use it for yourself, it's exactly the same thing with countries. By and large, for aid in general, say that a third is not only wasted, a third is directly counterproductive. Why? If it's wasted because it goes into the wrong pockets, it disappears. Or it introduces a technology which is that all kosher, what do you say? It isn't at all adapted and adopted to the local situation. Typical example is introducing in agriculture various mono systems, in order to raise dollars on exports of the food in order to start industrialization. All this nonsense that we preach to Africa, for decades. And all of a sudden you have self-sustaining areas where they had 20 plants growing together, one fertilizing the other, one sheltering the other, etc., etc., etc. You put in peanuts or something else for exports and you kill the whole system in 5 years. And you turn, which I've seen myself, 300,000 people or 500,000 people living in a sustainable way, not with any luxury, but sustainable way, into refugees into the cities, into camps, because all of a sudden they are all impoverished and the whole agriculture dies. Now, that's an illustration of that one third that either goes into their own pockets or introduces wrong. A third, I would say, grosso modo, is in the middle. Depending if you got a good breakfast, you're happy, your child did well in school, you're in a good mood, you may say that this looks reasonably okay, but doubtful. And depending if you have good monitoring or good evaluation, it's a gray zone. A third is probably okay depending on the definition of the project, but very seldom is there a long-term evaluation after the project's final date. There might be a year later. Usually there is a bit of underspent money or underspent months or years of experts or whatever, etc., etc. But if you come back after 10 years, you may say that a third success story wasn't a third, it might be a sixth or something. Now, luckily, I would say, when we turn to family planning and population, the situation is infinitely better. And I'm not quite sure whether it was the World Bank or whether it was the consortium. There was a fairly good consensus involving people from the Population Council and the UNFPA, etc., that probably investments in family planning, population, not only have a dividend which is infinitely better than if you use that same $1 into some institution or health center or school or ministry or land or etc. Because you immediately save unwanted kids. And as we see from the discussion after Greta in this country, we know from the research done at Lund University and many others that one child not born is every year equal to about 60 return trips to Thailand from Stockholm. Now, that leaves outside also the poor woman who has to give birth to an unwanted child, and what it means to the family, and what it means to the siblings already born, that will have less tender loving care, less possibilities for food, education, and everything else. So I would say that when you look at expenditures in this whole field of population family planning, the choice of subject already guarantees a much better payoff than any other sector. Then secondly, how about the thing per se? Has it been done a good way or a bad way? And there I think you have a wide variety of situations which differ infinitely. The most important is almost like in your private life, you have to choose the right partner. If you choose a good partner like Korea, you couldn't go wrong.
While most economists hold a view of aid as the driver of economic growth and development, others argue that aid has rather led to increasing poverty and decreasing economic growth of poor countries. Aid effectiveness is the degree to which development aid works, and it is a subject of significant disagreement. It seems that in case of family planning programs, aid works better than in other fields. Whereas the total amount of foreign aid is around $160 billion and rising, the share of aid spent on family planning is becoming smaller and smaller. Today, only about 1% of all overseas development assistance is allocated to family planning. Without raising this, the programs will likely to remain weak and ineffective.